Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers, friends and foes alike. Welcome back to another edition of the ONETA Show, brought to you by PTE Creative. Today, we are continuing our greatest movie action scene tournament, which is why I am joined by my lovely co-host from the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast, Dylan Davies. Sweet 16 time of the tournament.
Yep.
We got some
A lot of good ones.
We got some heavy hitters today. I think what we'll do is I'll introduce each matchup with their path to the tournament. So, if there is not a graphic here right now, because it kind of breaks up the flow of a podcast, that's kind of the problem with doing this on YouTube and Spotify. It's because it just breaks up audio and you're just looking at pictures. And if you're a podcast listener, you see nothing. So, so we'll introduce everything one by one. But if there is a graphic, congratulations. Are you ready to rumble?
Yep, I'm good.
Alrighty. We first go back to the Yo division, in which we have the number 1 seed Interstellar, which has beaten out the Chariot Chase of Ben-Hur, and the Bride versus Crazy 88 fight from Kill Bill. So the docking sequence for Interstellar is going to take on the truck chase from Terminator 2. That's the one with the motorbike. It's John Connor, the Terminator, and T-1000. That's what I'm talking about. You can tell that it's been a minute since we've recorded this. And that got in by beating out the Incredibles, which is Dash and Violet versus the Gliders, and the defusing of the bomb, or the attempt to defuse the bomb on a trolley underneath a moving bus in Speed.
Mm-hmm.
And that video, thank you guys for watching. That is doing pretty well for us right now. So clearly something's working for Terminator 2.
Oh, that's good. Nice.
How do you score this one? This is a good opening bout, in my opinion, to get started with.
I did 7-3 Interstellar.
Now, let me find my notes here quick. I went 8-2 Interstellar.
Yeah, I figured it was going to be quite lopsided.
Well, ironically enough, I would say of the two of us, I'm probably a bigger Terminator fan than you are.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
I think that's pretty fair to say. And yet, Terminator 2, this scene in particular has been the one I've picked on the most, which we'll get into a little bit. Again, what's going to bring Interstellar up? Now it's the time we got to start talking a little bit about not the losers, but the winners. Again, we're splitting everything out of 10 points, which is why we did 8-2, 8-2. We totaled up for a win. What about this Interstellar scene really makes it shine against specifically Terminator 2?
It's just the level of tension, really.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another scene. I'm trying to look over it real quickly. I don't think there's maybe one of the Mission Impossible scenes. It gets up there. It actually would be a fun experiment to do a heart rate monitor and actually look at your pulse to see which one gets your heart rate the highest.
Put them both and put them all in IMAX with the sound blaring and the heart rate monitor. Yeah,
because I got a feeling it would be Interstellar or one of the Mission Impossible scenes would get mine highest.
I would argue the exact same, because everything else has enough of a movie quality to it that you're like, oh, this is so much fun. But for some reason, the music mashed with the fear that's just primordially in us all would get us there. Yeah, the tension built in the music obviously is, for me, what takes Interstellar. That's what's made Interstellar just cruise through this tournament, is those two things. Which is why now that it's going to be in the Elite 8, that's where it becomes a discussion of, does it have other components that can take on some premier competition? And that's what I think is going to be, again, really unique for this battle. Now let's go to Terminator 2. The reason I took it out the most, and why it beat out Speed 6-4 for me, and it beat out Incredibles 6-4 to me, and it only won. It only beat Incredibles 11-9. It was one deciding point.
Yeah, mine was tied, so 5-5. So
was because there are few too many shots where it's clearly not Arnold or clearly not Edward Furlong, which I'm not. We've said this before. We don't expect a kid to be on a bike for all these stunts. but
Yeah,
the camera
it's just
work,
not feasible.
yes, the camera work needs to be done in a way where you can suspend your disbelief. And I understand the first time you watch Terminator 2, you're probably not going, is that the stunt double or is that Everett Furlong? I understand that. We're doing this from a critical lens. But if that's one of the first things I noticed when I'm critiquing, as opposed to, just like having to fight for that for rounds and rewatch and
Yeah,
rewatch, that's the problem for me.
I I do want to say like I don't want to put that against it though, because that's where modern movies just have an edge. Because like
Yes.
face replacement is so easy to do nowadays that it's like
Yes. I
you can
again,
do that on a computer on pretty much any budget.
you're correct. But there are still things that from movies past, in maybe not necessarily similar situations, but big spectacle movies like Terminator 2, in which they shot it strategically enough that you didn't ever notice. Unless
Sure.
you were
Yeah.
going like, is that the thing, right?
Yeah, I understand your point that like you could cut it in a way that would hide it better.
Yes. And that was
It's
always
just
my greatest concern with it, which is why it's always been such a close battle for me. Because the high points are, if it didn't have that issue, I wouldn't be shocked if this was a much closer battle for me. The mapping of this sequence is
yeah.
superb. The tension is built throughout because you have a full movie of backstory to hate the T-800.
Hmm.
And you're still not
Well,
sure what the T-800's doing yet.
I like that's one of the things I was going to bring up is I like that you can see a difference though
Yes.
in Arnold, even just a little bit in this scene, because it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's the same
Sure.
Terminator
Yes.
from the first one where it's just evil. Whereas is it Robert Patrick? Is that his name?
Yes.
T1000? Yeah. That one is just like it's going in a straight line no matter what towards Edward Furlong, and it's not going to deviate from that straight line of dest- destruction.
Yeah.
Um, so that I like that you can even without like hints really, you see a difference.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of great positives here. There are fun moments for all three characters involved. There are so many tremendously mapped out scenes in which it's so easy to follow along and figure out where you are and to comprehend what's happening. It's not one of those chase scenes where you're like, oh, well, what do you know? Well, they're chasing somebody, but you don't know anything else about it. So I appreciate that wholeheartedly. On top of that, I would like to say this is a groundbreaking scene. This stuff is groundbreaking what they're doing from not necessarily this scene, but this movie. What they did with Robert Patrick is so cutting edge. It's ridiculous.
Oh
Where
yeah.
and
Well, I mean, that's James Cameron in a nutshell. Like literally every single thing he does is groundbreaking.
yeah,
Because you have the Abyss where he does the water effects,
yeah,
and then T2 he does like the I guess the biggest effect you would say in T2 is probably like the morphine effects of the T1000
yes,
would probably be the biggest effect you would say, or that, or like I would go with that, or like the chrome effect, but I think the chrome effect is actually easier. Um, which is why in the Power Rangers movie,
of
the
course I
big
do.
chrome monster.
Yes, of course I do.
I'm pretty sure
Both of them.
that's I'm pretty sure that's why it's chrome is because it's easier to do as a visual effects artist.
I would assume so, specifically because the tool set exists then, and
Yeah.
it's a computer program, and theoretically, computer programs can be spread like wildfire. Even if they're proprietary knowledge, you can just be like, "Oh, I changed one bit of code." See, and you're like, "I
Yeah.
guess." I was thrilled that you always talk about Corridor Crew. I was glad that they still gave that movie some credit when they talked about the special effects of that movie, not just going,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
tough. They're like, no, for 1995, this looks really good, and I was like, ah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that. But again,
I love their breakdowns.
yeah, Terminator 2, the breakdown of this is tremendous. It's a groundbreaking film. The mapping on this is incredible. will never take that away. It's just going up against a juggernaut, and if you do not have, the more I'm looking, the more I'm seeing movies that are perfectly sewn up. They are playing playoff level football, and you're going into the playoffs right now going, well, we won enough to get in. You're like, yeah, but you're not playing your best ball right now. It's like, yeah, but we got in. You're like, yeah, those teams lose. That's how I feel
Yeah.
Terminator 2 is right now. Like, Interstellar is just a juggernaut, and it's going to be fun to see who takes it on in the Elite Eight. And let's go to that matchup right now. So after a 16-4 victory for Interstellar.
Oh no, it would be mine was 7-3.
Oh, I'm so sorry. 15-5. My apologies. 15-5 victory for Interstellar. We're going to go to our second matchup in the Yo bracket. Determine an Elite 8 spot. We are going to have the T-Rex escape. I keep calling it the chase, but it's really the escape from the paddock of the T-Rex.
Yeah.
It's just I have too many moments of watching the ILM documentary and just watching the scene of the T-Rex chasing the Jeep over and over in my head. So it's hard to edit that out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the T-Rex escape from the original Jurassic Park, which has taken out the Wayman fight from Everything Everywhere All at Once, and has taken out the first Jade Fox fight from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This T-Rex truly might turn into the T-Rex from the franchise to where it's just unkillable, because it's going that way right now. Big time matchups here. So we have that scene of Jurassic Park taking on the breaking of the Deeping Wall from the Lord of the Rings Two Towers, most famous for Legolas sliding down on the shield, but you get all these great moments of Aragorn, Gimli, all the elves, all the Rohirrim still fighting. Just tremendous filmmaking in general. And that got here by taking out Gladiator and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So it took out the Tigers fight and the Minecraft. So these two, this is the piece of the bracket that's got to be the roughest right now.
Yeah. It's close.
It's damn close. How'd you score this one?
I did 6-4 Jurassic Park.
I went 7-3 Jurassic Park.
Okay.
So we are going to have a Jurassic Park victory again, it's turning into the T-Rex that cannot die in that franchise. I'm telling you right now, dude.
Yeah. I think going into the tournament, that's the scene that was probably the one I overlooked the most.
I would say the same.
Because that Jurassic Park is actually one of the Spielberg films that I rewatched the least.
Which is crazy by most people's standards. I understand why you don't, but
I'm just not a dinosaur person. So like it just doesn't do anything. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't do anything for me, but it's like the one that I'm like, of all the adventure ones, it's the one that I get the least out of.
Sure.
Like even I like Hook more than I like Jurassic Park,
sure.
Which is crazy. I could say Jurassic Park is 10 times the film that Hook is, but I like Hook more.
I'm not sure if I can agree with you on that. It would be close because I do love Hook, but Jurassic Park just does something. It gets you in the feels, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing film, but...
So, briefly on Jurassic Park, why did you give it the lead?
It's the same thing I said before. It is able to hit so many tones within one scene. And it's perfectly... In terms of a suspense scene, it builds it up so well.
Yeah, I would. It's something to where what I always loved about it is the mapping and the elements. Every time you don't think the danger can be topped, they throw in another element to make it more dangerous and another element to make it more intriguing. And I remember in the descriptions for making Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of Spielberg and Lucas's goals for that movie was, what if we had a cliffhanger at every reel? That scene is essentially, what if we had a cliffhanger in every frame? It's just, what if we had this be a problem and this be a problem? And you can tell where this had the refinement of Steven Spielberg and all the beautiful mapping that he can do throughout a scene and the subtext to it, but it had some of the fun of George Lucas's finishing because George Lucas was a pseudo phantom director to end the movie.
Yeah, he finished the sound
And so,
editing and mixing of the film.
and
Yeah.
you can tell that there's still a little bit of fun elements of George in there that make it just that extra spectacle. Not that Steven needed help for that, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of the kismet thing of two best friends that are, I don't know if it's arguable the two biggest iconic directors of all time. I don't think George Lucas is the
I
most.
wouldn't say that.
I would say that just because of the status of Star Wars, but not because he's the best, because he's the most iconic for creating Star Wars. That's why. But I understand you're going to disagree with that comment, but I think there's an argument to be made. But it's just something of just two best friends being like, what if we made this dinosaur movie? It's just fucking ridiculous. And I know he didn't really, George didn't have that much to do with it, but he kind of phantom directed some stuff at the end, so it's fun. For me, it's all the elements, again, mixed together that bring this tone that is so fun, but thrilling and scary and exciting and so many different things.
Yeah. When it goes up against Interstellar, that is going to be when I think I'll have to talk more about all the aspects of it
Yeah.
because that's a good matchup.
It's a beautiful matchup. I mean, that's an elite matchup that my greatest concern going into this when we did this was once we picked our final four or our number one seeds. My greatest concern was going to be, well, it's just going to turn into those. And I'm truly on the fence right now whether what I would pick. So it's going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
Now let's go to Two Towers. I will start this off. It's what I've been saving the most. And I've said this on the Return of the King element entry in this tournament. I've also said this in the Fellowship of the Ring entry, but to me, the Two Towers is the best subtle fantasy world building on film you will ever see. Because you get all four races in that movie, or all four races that are in that battle, all are shown to be wildly different and shown characteristics, while it still just seems as big fight versus big fight. But in that, you get the characteristics of a dwarf that's just loyal and foolish to the nth degree, but so headstrong, willing to take on anything to help a friend. Once they're in and loyal to you, they're loyal. And he just jumps into a goddamn breaking dam, and he's like, I'll fight 50 people to save my friend. I don't care. You have Aragorn learning the reclamation of men, learning what they can do in this world against such evil forces, and a king coming to play. But you get really the leadership of men finally coming out when they haven't been taking the reins in this fantasy story. And then you get these superhuman elves that are like, what if I just had a shield? And I used it as a surfboard downstairs while also being able to shoot at least 4 to 5 enemies while going down the stairs. And then use that shield as a projectile and show how superhuman we are. That's all the subtext to it. Mm-hmm. That's not even what actually first comes to the scene. You're just like, that's so cool. It's awesome. And then you get the orcs are just the mindless horde of muscle and darkness that can't be stopped.
Yeah. And what are they? Are they actually orcs?
They're Uruk-hai. I should be.
Okay.
They're the Uruk-hai.
Because they're Sarumans, not Saurons.
They are. Yeah, they are.
Little
they are
minions.
Saruman's creation. The Uruk-hai. Yes. Which they've been. Essentially, orcs were created out of the elves, and then the Uruk-hai were created out of the orcs. So theoretically, there's still some elvish to them as well. But
great effect with how they show the Uruk-hai being like spawned from the earth.
Oh yeah,
it looks so disgusting.
Oh, immediately you're just like, that's gross, and I hate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have just this epic clash between two things, and so when I gave it the points that I did, I thought there was a possibility Two Towers was going to go very, very high in this tournament, even higher than this. Simply because all the subtext to it, everything, it's so easily understandable. I just don't think it has. This is a tale to me of something that does one thing so incredibly well versus something that does a bunch of things really well. And which one do you favor? And I think Two Towers is a better single element in terms of action.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where a 40-minute fight scene or a battle doesn't really pay off because in terms of this tournament.
in this tournament for a single
because
scene.
it's you can't call that a scene because it's not a scene.
Well, the breaking, it's like you have to break it down into little things, but I understand what you're saying.
Like
yes.
the whole battle is an entire act of a movie,
Yeah.
essentially. So like that's where it's the downfall of this scene.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to compare to something that is so definitively a actual action scene.
Yeah.
So
we have Jurassic Park moving on 13-7, and again in the Elite Eight, you're going to see Interstellar's docking sequence taking on the T-Rex escape from Jurassic Park. Woo! That's buddy, that's going to be some fun there. And now let's move on over to the cruise bracket.
Yep.
Where we have brother versus brother.
I was going to say, we got Civil War. We got the Rebels versus the Yanks. I don't know which one's which, though.
I don't know.
Which one supports slavery?
I was going to say, what if we did, anything else besides the Civil War? Or if they were going to say Civil War, maybe this is Captain America and Iron Man versus...
one of them has to support slavery.
I disagree with this comment entirely. So to get past that ugly state that Dylan just put us in,
South Sudan and I don't know what the other one is.
Just stop going down the rabbit hole,
Sudan?
Dylan. Just stop going down the rabbit hole, Dylan. just let it be. So we have the number one seed of the cruise bracket, which is Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol, and that is the Burj Khalifa climb. That beat out Batman vs. Superman's warehouse scene, and it beat out the Big Three versus Thanos from Avengers Endgame. So, big franchises here in franchise warfare. Mission Impossible is taking it. A little bit easier road than some of our competitors, but hey, number one seed tends to get that no matter what.
Yep.
And that is going to take on the Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation water tank heist. And that got here by beating out the debris crash from Gravity, which I was very impressed by. It was one of those scenes that I was like, really? We're going to put this in? I was like, oh no, I get it. I understand it now. And it beat out the hotel fight from Inception. So groundbreaking scenes in some way, but they don't have the full flourish that the water tank scene does. How did you score Ghost Protocol versus Rogue Nation?
You're going to be the decider. Mine's 5-5 split.
I went 7-3 Ghost Protocol.
Okay. That's fair.
So that is a 12-8 fight for Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol feels to me like the sleeping giant right now. I don't know why.
Hey.
But it's just because it's gotten in. It beat Batman vs. Superman 19-1.
I was going to say, it literally, like, that was like the easiest fight of, I think, the whole tournament. I'm pretty sure.
It beat out Avengers 16-4. It's just, it's the way the seeding works. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, that must have been so easy route. But you look at it, you're like, no, sometimes just a team in a tournament's that good that they just make everything look easy. Ghost Protocol to me is just making everything look easy. Again, it's the human fear created in Ghost Protocol that takes it to that level where you just go, impeccable, hard to beat.
Yeah. So the reason I did the split, I think it has a lot to do with Rogue Nation being my favorite of the Mission Impossibles in, like, as just movies.
Okay.
So I think that has to do with some of it. And then we also talked about in prior episodes about just generalize like fears, like greatest fears, you always say like, "Oh, you're scared of heights,"
Yeah.
and I guess I'm scared of drowning.
Yeah, we determined that, which is funny because I challenge my fear of heights all the time. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I
but
mean, I swim
that's
all
the
the time.
see that's the funny part is, uh, like we were just in Joshua Tree National Park a couple weeks ago on vacation, and I scrambled up to a top of a really thing, and I was just like hanging off a rock, and there was a good fall in between, and I was like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm safe. I'm okay. Or I'll go to the top of a peak and I'll scramble all the way to the top if I can. And everybody around me's like, "Fuck you doing? Like, don't do that." But yet, if I watch the Burj Khalifa, I get that sinking stomach feel where I just go, "I'm not okay. Like, this is not okay. I can't do
hmm
this."
actually, have you ever seen one of the Mission Impossibles in IMAX?
I've seen. I think it was Rogue Nation I saw in IMAX. I can't remember
Okay,
though. It's a
I have
possibility.
I have not seen any of them, and I really would like to.
Wait, I don't know. I won't. No, I don't think so. Maybe not because I've only seen. There was one theater that I went to on the regular that had IMAX that I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna pay for
hmm
it, I'll go to IMAX. But I don't think that was until Philly. So,
Oh, okay.
so no, I don't think so. I would agree with you. I think I like Rogue Nation the most out of all the Mission Impossible films. For me, I'd probably go Rogue Nation, Fallout, Ghost Protocol.
Oh, I thought Ghost Protocol was your favorite.
I just think that it's the ramp up to where it gets very much just like, fuck it. And I really like when Mission Impossible's in fuck it mode. And I
Oh
think
yeah,
Rogue
I
Nation's
mean,
the peak of that. And that's where I think Fallout has
four,
more general fun than Ghost Protocol. Ghost
four
Protocol is
is
taking you
yeah,
out of that old version of Mission Impossible.
four is definitely the point where it hits, where it goes, okay, we're doing something different here now,
Yeah.
because it feels completely different than the first
Oh, I
three.
remember going into Ghost Protocol with you and Dad and just going like, okay.
I love the third one too, though. Like, it doesn't feel like any of the later sequels.
Oh, I know.
Uh,
It's because I remember falling in love with Mission Impossible through Ghost Protocol, and then going back to rewatch them because I knew you had Mission Impossible 3, and I was like, oh, I'll go track these down. I was like, these are not the same. This is
yeah,
this is a one-off. And then Rogue Nation came off and went, okay, so this isn't a one-off anymore. It's just this is where we go. Nope, we're going this way.
yeah, yeah. So the water tank sequence, it is straight up just. Well, I shouldn't say it's straight up just the fear of drowning because it's not actually. It's cutting between those three characters, and it's doing it really well. And the stakes immediately. It's just if Tom doesn't succeed, then well, actually, it's if Ilsa doesn't succeed, then Tom doesn't succeed, then Simon Pegg doesn't succeed.
Yeah, Benji then doesn't succeed.
There's a very clear dynamic there that you know immediately.
Yeah, the only one who's safe if people fail is Ilsa. She's the only one that makes it out
Yeah,
because you know I can now say Ethan Hunt because I've watched it enough. Because I'm just gonna say Tom most likely, just like you would. If Ethan fails, Benji's done. If Benji fails, Ethan's still not in a good spot, right? Like,
well, no, the only thing they actually need to succeed is Benji, because the whole mission is to get the information that Benji needs.
right, it's just Ethan has to be the one to get it all done. The
Yeah,
spinning turbine and taking advantage of the fear, uh, and the fact that he accomplishes step one and fails step two is crucial to this scene
yeah,
because it at least gets that little part of your brain going, what if?
yeah. And then I love
What
that
if?
it comes down to pure luck, where he has the two cards and he doesn't know which one's the actual good one.
Yeah, and he
So
just puts it in.
yes, so just like, oh fuck it, whatever.
He just drops one. He's like, well, this is the one I have. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that element of it. That's the first moment where you buy Ilsa as a babyface as well, where you go, oh, she's here and I like her. Not, I like
Until
her, but
20 seconds
she's
later.
right. But that's that first scene where even after she betrays them at the end of that scene, you
Yeah,
still go, God, I love her.
that's true. You're still not like she's a bad guy. You're still like, what is her deal? Like what is wrong with her
And
character?
you could tell there's just something up with her. And I love Rebecca Ferguson. I love her in everything I've ever
Yeah.
seen. She's a high point for me in Dune. She's
Really,
a high point for me in pretty much everything she does.
really disappointed about her character. Like
It's
her arc
because
is
it's because of the
very
production
disappointing.
stuff.
I know, but it's so disappointing with for that character.
I mean, we talked about it, and she said it publicly. She loves being on Mission Impossible. She loved it, but she can do 3 to 5 movies in the time that Mission Impossible is filmed.
Yep.
And she's at a crucial part of her career. She's like, I can do 3 to 5 more things, or I can do another Mission Impossible.
Hmm.
And it sucks because that was the perfect love interest for that character.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't care about Ethan's wife. I don't care about Michelle Moynihan. No disrespect to her. I think she does a good job in what she's doing.
Oh
But I've
well, I
never
mean,
cared. I've never
no
cared.
that character, her story's ended now.
I know,
Like,
but then they bring her back for Fallout to make sure that she kind of like approves Ilsa. So it's even more heartbreaking that now you have Ilsa going like, nope, I'm gone.
no, this is
Sorry,
where
spoilers for
it,
sorry,
yeah,
spoilers for Final Reckoning or Dead
this
Reckoning, whatever one it is.
this is where in the future that's where you go. Any love interest moving forward, I am like, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of the classic. To me, it's similar to.
It's kind of Bond in a way.
It's kind of Bond in a way, but I look at it very much like Batman, where in the comics there's Catwoman and there's
Oh,
everyone
sure.
else, and
Yeah.
there are others that come close, but nobody's Catwoman. So if on screen, if they ever did Catwoman then someone else, everything will feel inferior to Catwoman.
Yeah. I was just saying it could be Bond in a way because maybe they'll just start doing that like one off.
I think it's now Haley Atwell if they're actually gonna
I
end this thing.
I think they're gonna go for that, but actually I'd prefer that. I don't want them to go Bond. I don't like when Bond does that anyways, so
Well, I think that's why the whole Daniel Craig arc is way better
yes.
because there's really two. There's two women. The
Yes.
first one and then
There,
the last one. And that's it.
there's actually a through line, yeah.
So I again to focus more on the Rogue Nation stuff. The character elements here are perfect. You get such a triumphant moment to believe in a character. The person that you already know and love is in danger. You love Benji and you're just like, come on. You know Benji's gonna make it, but you're still like, I don't know. They kill other characters.
I mean technically he has a very easy job. All he has to do is walk.
Right.
It's just about is he going to succeed in that walk?
Right. And I think that that's a perfect way. I will say this. I think, which is obviously why I voted for it, I think the Burj Khalifa is a better scene than Rogue Nation. But I will say the fact that you have three elements playing together in a real way is a perfect way to move you out of the Ghost Protocol problem, which is how do we top Ghost Protocol? Well, we have to be, you can either be better than, worse
Sure.
than, or different than. So why don't we do different than with a similar vibe?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
So Ghost Protocol takes it 12-8. That is just more of a reflection of competition. That is not a reflection of the sleeping giant. And now we go to our final matchup in the cruise bracket towards the 8. In the Sweet 16, we have Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. We have the Amon Hen fight, which most people would say the fight in the forest. And that is beaten out the duel, Wesley Inigo and Princess Bride, and it's taken out the truck chase and flip from the Dark Knight. In the only tie I've had in this entire fucking tournament. Talk about a goddamn dagger to the heart.
Mm.
So you have that from Fellowship of the Ring taking on the original John Wick, the nightclub / bathhouse chase and fight, which has taken out the bank robbery from Heat, and it's taken out 2005 King Kong's T-Rex fight against the 3 T-Rexes. How did you score this one?
9-1 Fellowship.
I also have 9-1 Fellowship. I think this is where we may be able to save some time in this episode, so to speak, you know? Here's the thing. Oh, you go first. You go first.
I've been bashing on John Wick quite a lot. and
Yes, you
I'm going
have.
to continue. No, I said my main problem with this scene, which is like it doesn't make sense in terms of motivation, where he sees Alfie Allen's character, but then he doesn't shoot, and he shoots the guy directly below him in the head, which is an awesome thing. It's a great moment, but then that would imply he really wants to get a personal kill, like up front, or just beat the actual shit out of Alfie Allen,
Yeah.
like literally beat him to death. But then immediately after that, he starts shooting at him. It's like you could have just done that 3 seconds ago, dude. You had him
Yeah.
literally in your gun sight.
The problem
It
is,
makes no sense.
yes, the problem with that one becomes: do you want to see one? You got to get to the end of the movie. Really, that's what that is. But
Yeah, no,
two,
I'm just saying I would rather him just start chasing after him. Don't have him start shooting. That doesn't make any
yeah,
sense.
I
Because all the actual hand-to-hand stuff that John's doing, like the stuff before he actually starts like shooting it
yeah.
in that scene, I love all the hand-to-hand combat. That's awesome.
So the thing is, what I love about this scene, again, Fellowship is character moments plus action plus cinematography. That's what takes Fellowship over the top. And now we're going to get to talk a lot more about Fellowship in the next couple rounds because it's going up against a Juggernaut, but I think Fellowship's turned into a Juggernaut, right? With John Wick, it's exactly what you said that I really, really enjoy. I love the tonal shift, and I think that's why I appreciate that moment and let it pass more than you do, is I love how when you start that scene, and I start it from the time he talks to Kevin Nash, the giant who's the bodyguard, simply because
Okay.
I'm a pro wrestling fan. I started that moment because it shows that there's this piece of him that's, I don't want to make people suffer. I don't want to make people hurt. The only people I want to make hurt is the person who hurt me. I don't need to hurt all these other motherfuckers and just make them suffer. So he gives him a pass, and then he just goes through the bathhouse, and it's one kill, and it's very snap, quick. You don't see it. It's all silhouette shots for the most part.
Yeah.
I love that. And then the moment where he breaks in and starts going wrong for him, he's like, okay, fine. You forced me to do this. And I love that moment because the tonal shift happens where you just go, ooh, this is no longer John Wick the man. This is Baba Yaga the fucking killer. And again, this is the scene that creates an icon, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I love. And I can't talk about this scene without, what a great kill with the beard. Just fucking uses a guy's beard against him to fucking kill him. Genius. I love that fucking kill as well. It's great.
The kill I really like is the one where it's like that absolutely giant guy
Yeah.
who's I think he's just in a Speedo, but he's just absolutely fucking jacked. And then he shoots him like right in the head and he falls backward into the jacuzzi again.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite one.
I think, yeah, the beard one where he just pulls the guy down by the beard and just fucking rakes him into the table and then smashes him in the head and shoots him. You're like, as a bearded man, fuck, that sucks.
There's a lot of great action in John Wick.
Right. I think the thing is, the only thing I would try to make clear for you, and I can be wrong, so please correct me. It doesn't seem that you dislike John Wick, the franchise, and the action in the John Wick franchise. You don't like that everyone's now stolen that style, and now everyone's trying to be John Wick, and what's happened because of the John Wick style.
I'm very fatigued on that style now.
Right. Which I think is fair, because, yeah, there's other movies that are so clearly trying to be John Wick, and so few actually achieve anything remotely close. Like we said, one entry in this tournament that I think does a good job and makes themselves unique in comparison is Atomic Blonde, because they show different moments to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the few that I've ever seen after John Wick where you go, okay, similar style, I like it, it's doing good, and it's giving me this too, as opposed to just trying to be a John Wick ripoff. The funny part is that's what's really the key. If everyone's trying to copy you, that's what makes you great. And I think that's what makes
the unfortunate thing, yeah.
But it's the unfortunate thing here to go with John Wick. But that is going to do it here. 18-2 victory for the Fellowship of the Ring over John Wick. The final John Wick entry in this tournament. Has John Wick's finally been killed?
Yeah. Sorry. Had to do it.
It took format. It took one. It took 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry. We still have John Wick 2. My apologies. We still have John Wick 2 because it won the tiebreaker technically. We said that we already announced that was going to be difficult to be the last matchup, so we might not make that the last matchup in this for some suspense in the episode. But John Wick lasted a good while in this tournament. All right, let's move on over to the Weaver bracket now, where we have the number 1 seed Raiders of the Lost Ark, the truck chase, and that's beaten out the roof jump from Die Hard, and it's beaten out the iconic heist with Tom Cruise hanging over the floor from Mission Impossible. And that's going to take on, again, we have a Civil War, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which got here by beating out the Troy fight of Achilles and Hector, and the Nightcrawler opening sequence from X2 X-Men United. So It's beaten out some really under the radar quality competition.
Mm-hmm.
How do you score this one? Which indie wins?
I did 7-3 Raiders.
I went 8-2 Raiders.
Okay.
Quickly, why does Raiders take this for you?
I think overall, it's pretty clear that what they were trying to do is top Raiders with this scene. It's just so hard to do that.
Right. The funniest part is if virtually any other director directs The Last Crusade, maybe not 100% because you make this argument for some directors, but at least would be an argument, that's the greatest scene they've ever directed. Is if anyone besides Spielberg directs that tank chase scene, you could go, that's the crowning achievement of their filmmaking career, is that scene.
That's fair for most directors.
It's mapped out so well, everything's there. But again, Raiders has such a very abundantly clear through line, and the tone never lapses. The suspense only builds. The only thing I'll see that I would say about the Last Crusade shot is they have more comedic elements, which to me, I'm not saying are bad. I think it's fun. The only time I've ever even thought remotely negative about the Last Crusade scene is because I have to compare it to Raiders in this tournament. I've always looked at it. I don't even look at them as similar scenes because the tone's different. And it was similar to what I said about Mission Impossible. You either have to be better than, worse than, or different than. And through the tone and the multiple characters that they're focusing on, I think they hit different than well in The Last Crusade.
The entire tone of the movies are different, too.
Yeah.
Last Crusade is a lot more of a comedy than Raiders is.
Right.
There are funny moments in Raiders, but it's not a comedy at all.
Right. Where there are straight up comedic moments a lot.
Yes.
In Last Crusade.
A lot of the times in Last Crusade.
Which also, I know a whole swath of people that are Indiana Jones fans that swear by Last Crusade more than anything because they think it's the most fun entry. I disagree with that. I don't know if there's any movie that I have more fun with than Raiders of the Lost Ark. I would argue it's the most fun movie ever. So, I'm not...
Yeah.
It's not... it's that or, Back to the Future is the most fun movie to watch. But... who knows?
Yeah.
But, again, the fact that you can balance Marcus and Henry Jones winning with pens and hijinks circumstances with Indy fucking almost being squished up against a wall by a truck running into rock, and he's hanging for dear life by his satchel. It's incredible. It's incredible that you can do that.
The scene starts off great with the, don't worry about it. We're totally out of range. And then just explosion right behind them.
Yeah.
That's great.
We're far out of range. And you're like, boom. But I love when I map this scene, I view it from when Indy's on the horse coming from the back trying to get them.
Sure.
And
I also like Sala's little running joke that he's just trying to steal all the horses.
yep,
I like that.
good on Sala, man. You know what? Swigging tea for the working man, Sala. We love you.
I can't remember who it is. I think maybe his brother-in-law that he owes.
Yeah,
As
something
we
like
saw.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great through line. It's a great joke.
So, just so many great. You have four legitimately great actors, all getting to shine with different
Yeah.
little moments. And I've loved just how Denholm Elliott is so book smart and wise and caring in this franchise. But then when he gets to Last Crusade, it's just so clearly a scholar who cannot hack it
Yeah.
in the real world.
Yeah. Yes.
And I
It's
love
so
that.
funny that they took his character from the first one and just gave it to Henry Jones Sr.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's so funny that they did that.
But
I will say, Last Crusade, I think, has maybe the funniest smash cut in all of maybe the funniest smash cut in movies to me, which is where they're talking about I don't I can't remember if they're talking about the Grail diary or what they're talking about, but where he's like Mark Brody knows like 7 languages.
yes,
And then he knows 7 languages.
you'll never find him. He'll disappear. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then it goes straight to Marcus, just being
And then
a bumbling dope tourist.
and then smash cut. Does anyone speak English here? Like it's so
Maybe
great.
ancient Greek. It's just like, what the fuck, Marcus? Come on, man. Again, it shows the tone. We're laughing now because the tone's different. And so many great small moments. Again, it's that Spielberg magic.
Also, great ending for a scene too. It's really like heartfelt
Yes.
because it's got the
Oh, I have
the
tears in
great-
my eyes every day. Every time I see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, he's like I never told him. Like I never got to tell him. Like that's a great moment.
And I love how it's over the top and it allows Sean Connery to still be manly, which is like a prerequisite for any Sean Connery role.
Well, he's not going to be a bitch.
So the thing is this, we all love Sean Connery. Sean Connery is a very problematic human being, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a reason he's perfect as that early Bond, because he kind of is that early Bond.
Yes, very much.
Having said that, for the character is, I love how heartfelt he can get here, where it doesn't have to be tears. It doesn't have to be overswept, just with and bereft of emotion. It's just a father that knows he's lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it gets me every time. 5 minutes. 5 minutes would have been enough.
Yeah.
He's not trying to bargain for like what every time someone dies in a movie, everyone's trying to bargain for like years or you stole decades from me. He's just like, I just wanted 5 more minutes. So I could have told him everything I should have.
Yeah, it's great scene.
And then my own father issues pop up and I get tears in my eyes like I do right now. And yeah, I cry every time.
Yeah, it's just going up against one of the greatest scenes of all time.
Exactly.
So that's why it goes the way it's going.
So, and that's why it loses out 15-5 to Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think we both argued the true juggernaut of this tournament, probably.
It's gonna be hard to beat.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought ahead of anything.
I'm
but
trying not to, but then I'm still mapping it. I have too much pro wrestling. How do we get from here to here to here to here to here?
Yeah,
Too much of that.
I'm not really looking ahead intentionally, so yeah.
Alrighty, we're gonna move on to our final matchup towards the Sweet 16 for the Weaver bracket, and we have Godzilla -1, and that's the destruction of Ginza. The first time you see the atomic breath in that film. And that got here by beating out the Ripley versus the Alien Queen fight in Aliens.
Second time.
I'm sorry, second time. But it's the first time you get to really see the power.
In all its glory.
In all its glory. It's the first time they really show you the buildup of the Kamehameha in Dragon Ball Z. That's
Yes,
what it really
yeah,
is. Or it's the Kamehameha versus the Spirit Bomb. That's what it really is.
yeah,
And then it also took out the Neytiri and Jake versus Quaritch fight from Avatar. This is one where a dominant film hit a two games that it was going to take. That's what I look
yep.
at with Godzilla Minus One. And now it's in a true fight. Because now it's taking on the parkour scene from Casino Royale, which has taken out the Batmobile chase from the Batman, and it's taken out the Candyland shootout from Django Unchained. How do you score Godzilla versus Casino Royale?
6-4 Casino Royale.
7-3 Casino Royale.
Yeah, it hurts to do it because I love Godzilla Minus One.
You fucking love Godzilla Minus One.
Yeah.
You and one of my great guests on the Far Out Football podcast. He'll be coming back to the. He'll be coming back for an ONETA Show appearance in the near future. My boy Brandon Hollings. He and you both were just like, "You seen Godzilla Minus One yet?" I was like, "No." And they're just like, "Stop what you're doing and go watch Godzilla Minus One."
It's so good.
You
Yeah.
both are just like, "No, you need to."
Like the best way I can describe that scene is just it's so fucking awesome.
Yes.
Like in terms of a destruction scene, I, I can't think of a better one.
Well, the thing is, it's still loyal to the source material, the original Toho stuff too. It's still
Yeah.
it's still a little camp, not super camp, but camp enough.
I would be curious because it sounds like it's the same music even.
Yes, it
I
gets
don't know if
similar
it's the
music.
exact one, but it sounds pretty close. I'm gonna look that up actually.
So let's get quick on Casino Royale. What took it over the top for me is all the subtle character work that is put in to an absolutely beautiful action sequence in Casino Royale. That's to me what took it from. I think the action alone, for me, just by taste, would have picked Casino Royale, but I would have probably done a 6-4 split. But the character work for me is what gave it that additional point to go, no, it's clearly better in my mind.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's like so good at setting up who this James Bond is
Yes.
because it's so much different than every other James Bond.
Wait, it's not Pierce Brosnan surfing with a parachute on a tidal wave
Yeah,
created by an iceberg and die another day? No way.
like
Who would have thought?
no one can imagine any of the other James Bond. Maybe Timothy Dalton, maybe doing some of that.
Maybe GoldenEye Pierce. Maybe. GoldenEye Pierce
Mm,
is a little bit, but yeah.
he's still too old to be doing all that stuff.
Sure. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, he's past his prime already. Um, but it's so good at setting up that this is like the Bond that's just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna like,
This is the moment where the producers go, "This ain't your granddaddy's Bond," and you're like, "No
yeah,
shit."
yeah. It's like the pure physicality Bond.
Yes. So let's talk about Godzilla a little bit here. This scene's fucking rad, as you said. It's just so cool. Where no matter what, even like Godzilla Minus One does truly have you rooting for humans against Godzilla, which is not something I root for almost ever.
Yeah,
I'm always
yeah,
rooting for Godzilla.
yeah.
Always.
Godzilla is definitely the monster in it.
And I love that they achieve that, and they still give you the moment where you're like, yeah, but this is why I love Godzilla. And the fact that he's just wrecking shop, and they have all those beautiful shots to show all that gorgeous animation is incredible. And I love how you still get those character moments where these characters we've been mapping, this woman that we've been, mapping with for over an hour, and we're really jiving with, we want her to live. You're like, oh shit, bad stuff happens. Okay, that film crew moment, so much fun. I love that moment as well. But to me, it all comes down to this is why, like, watching Godzilla pull out the atomic breath, all the build up to it. That's why people like watching Dragon Ball Z. And I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer as an adult because it has no editing and it really needs to be edited properly. But even the moments that I could still go back occasionally and go, yeah, it's rad though, is the build up to the Kamehameha or the Spirit Bomb in a big fight where you're like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, give it to me. And the fact that all the spikes start protruding more, the glow starts happening through the tail,
Yeah,
fucking glorious.
it's really great build up. I couldn't find an answer on the music, so I'd be curious to see if anyone knows that, but it's it's a great callback to the original. I've only seen the original one time,
Yeah,
and it's pretty janky at this point, but I
of
mean,
course. A
what can you
1950s,
expect?
a
Yeah.
1950s
At
kaiju
this
movies will
point,
only
I
do so
think
much.
it's 71 years old. I
Yeah,
think it's
something.
54.
Yeah, something like that.
Uh, so yeah, I love the moment. Obviously, the atomic breath is like the moment of that scene, but I love the atomic wave that it
Yes.
creates of just like it is um
Just the pulsing energy that blasts through. It's not even the breath that's just going to incinerate everything. It's just that wave of energy that blows
yeah,
everything fucking miles away.
that you would get with an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Like obviously that's what Godzilla was originally. It was like a metaphor for
Nuclear armament. Yeah,
America.
yeah.
Yeah. America being assholes and bombing them. So like
Yeah, we could have handled that one a little bit better as a country. Perhaps,
yeah,
perhaps,
I think
perhaps.
so. Um
or maybe
but
or maybe don't do it twice, you know?
yeah, yeah,
second one
yeah,
was second one's so gratuitous. It's like, come on, guys.
yeah. So that's probably the two moments I really love, where she pushes him out of the way, and then she just goes flying in the other direction.
Yeah.
And then you got to also consider, I mention it every time Godzilla minus one comes up, 36 people working on that movie, $15 million budget. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. It's incredible what a small team did with that. Godzilla minus one is truly, you argued it's your best picture of 2023 if I remember correctly.
Yes, I did over Oppenheimer.
So again, if you want to go back, all of our Oscar episodes are now collected into. I believe I put it in a playlist, and if I haven't, I'll do it before this episode. But all of them are up and running on our YouTube channel. If you want to go check that out, you can hear all about Dylan gushing over Godzilla minus one if you want some more love for that movie. We have Casino Royale's parkour scene taking on the truck chase sequence from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I want to say this. I have always loved that parkour scene for Casino Royale, but I thought it was like, okay, it'll probably make it round of 32, maybe Sweet
Oh,
16.
really? I thought it was going to get far.
And it's at least a competition. I don't think this
Yeah,
is just a, oh, you
that's a
win
good fight.
situation here. James Bond and Indiana Jones, this is some fantasy booking right here. Love it. Now let's move into our penultimate matchup of the show. It's our first matchup of the Sweet 16 from the Arnold bracket. We have the number one seed, Saving Private Ryan, which has taken out Jackie Chan's Police Story and its mall fight, and it's taken out My Darling with test run sequence from Top Gun Maverick. And that is going to be playing Mission Impossible 6 Fallout, and it's the helicopter. I call that a heist in one of the thumbnails because I was like, well, technically he does steal a helicopter, I guess. I don't know how else to put that in quickly in a thumbnail. So I was like, all right, here you
Yeah.
go, thumbnail, heist
I would
and
call it a
chase.
helicopter chase,
Yeah, I
I
put it
guess.
as it's the heist and chase from Fallout, and that has taken out the car chase from Bullet, which we really enjoyed, a very old school entry into this tournament, and it took out off a tiebreaker the Manson family massacre at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which again I watched again. Fucking
Great.
hilarious.
Yeah. It's
the
so much
sec-
fun.
the second he pulls out that fucking flamethrower, it's so ridiculous.
Yep.
So Saving Private Ryan of all the number one seeds has kind of had the easiest go of it, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because as good as Top Gun Maverick is, it's such a different scene and succeeds at different things. and then it's competitions. Like Fallout won off a tiebreaker off the last one, so I'm pretty confident we know who's going to win. How'd you score it though?
I did 8-2 Saving Private Ryan.
0.73 Saving Private Ryan here. Quickly, why would you? What puts it over the top of Fallout?
I it's just a stronger scene. Like I think once I think I mentioned this earlier. The moment that Tom Cruise actually gets into the helicopter, that scene kind of loses a little steam for me.
I understand that. Yeah, that's the high moment. It plateaus. It doesn't necessarily raise again.
Yeah, it becomes good again once they get out of the helicopters again and they're just fighting.
Yes.
Um but like the stuff that's actually in the helicopters I don't find that interesting where Henry Cavill's just shooting a big ass machine gun at Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like
You're like,
just
it's
okay,
cool, it's
whatever.
fun, but it's not the
Yeah.
same caliber. For me, obviously, saving the Omaha Beach scene from Saving Private Ryan, which was also difficult to find a link to, by the way. Just to it was to capture the full scope of what we were talking about, not necessarily to find a piece of Omaha Beach, but hard to find the whole thing that we're talking about from Omaha Beach. The biggest thing. Oh, Emma's making an appearance on today's show. It's usually just Lupin. Hi, Emma. So, the big thing for me here was cinematography, scope, stakes. If it could stay at that high point and continue rising, I truly think this could be a competition. If you could get that same level of stakes when Ethan's climbing into the helicopter, falls, climbs up again.
Mm-hmm.
If you could keep that through the helicopter chase, I think that's a competition. I just don't think the stakes, the fear, nothing's matched once you hit that high point that Saving Private Ryan has as a consistent.
I think the Mission Impossible scenes maybe just a little bit too long.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That maybe cut out some of the stuff of the actual flying. That would maybe help it.
Maybe 30 seconds of it. Just take 30 seconds out of it and just jazz it up a hair more.
Maybe take out the part where he misses with the payload.
Yeah, it's I think I love that moment, but it almost would be cool if it just hit and you're like, nice. or just take it out in general. Yeah.
Yeah, like if he just got rid of it to just, speed up.
You could even
something.
say, you can even say one line like, I'm not going to catch him with this fucking payload. Drop it and be done with it.
Something like that, because it's kind of a pointless moment. It does show Ethan at least doesn't succeed at everything he does.
Well, that's what I've said that as a strength for all these Mission Impossible entries is they show Ethan failing as well. So it's not just, it doesn't turn into Ethan Hunt, I'm great at everything and I will win automatically. There's always the times where you're like, no, he got through by the skin of his teeth. Oh, Ilsa saved his ass, or this happened, or that happened, It's not just him being like, I'm perfect. It doesn't turn into Superman. That's the big thing.
And when he does succeed, he almost fails all the time.
Yes. Which is why it's fun. It's why these movies are fun. I heard Sean Ryan on the Best Picture say it. Mission Impossible is fun when it gets messy. That's the part that's fun. It's just messy.
Like that the high point of that scene is where he falls and almost drops off.
God, it's good.
It's so great.
It's so good. But again, the high point is there. I like everything happening throughout it. The cinematography on the helicopters is really good. Really shows the landscape beautifully. But it's, again, the peak is the fall the first time off the payload and having to climb it again. You're like, God damn, dude.
I'm sure they digitally completely just took out that entire landscape and redid it. I bet any amount of money.
Still beautiful, so I don't care.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, that they do that so much nowadays where it'll be, like, shot in a good location and they'll just replace it.
The only thing I will say is a lot of Tom Cruise movies don't, from what I know of them. That's just why I still like it. Like,
Have you ever seen the behind the scenes of the train sequence in
yeah, I've
the
seen part of that. Yeah,
that's disappointing because I'm like, you had a good location.
they used as much as they could, but they took a lot out that they didn't have to, and you're like, why? It's just
Yeah,
let it roll, man.
yeah, they had a good location and they just replaced a lot of it. And for their like big jump sequence, they replaced a lot of that too. And I'm like, you had a great background for your shot, and they replaced it with like something that actually made the shot worse, in my opinion. So I was like, I don't understand this at
Yeah,
all.
it's interesting. Just because I know Top Gun Maverick, that is not. That's legit. Like they scouted all those locations very much so. They spent fucking 15 years
I'm
scouting that shit.
I'm sure there are a lot of hidden
Yes, they're hidden
visual effects.
well, but I
Yeah,
know a lot of those locations actually exist and are done properly. And I'm like,
yeah.
nice. So that's why I'm like, and there's other parts of Mission Impossible that are clearly not that. That you're like, they did a really good job making sure that
A lot of
existed.
also I should point out there's a lot of great hidden visual effects in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
Like the big the big establishing shot of the beach, Omaha Beach at the end.
yeah.
There's so much visual effects in there and like matte paintings and stuff of the like I don't know what
Love a good matte painting, baby.
the amphibious,
Yeah,
landers and stuff
yeah.
and
They're
the big
ducks.
like
They're essentially ducks. Yeah,
whatever those big fucking things that look like not I was about to say Zambonis. What the hell am I talking about?
they're military ducks, but they're landing craft. They come down, they put the ramp down. Yeah,
Also the things that what are the Hindenburg thing? The
the
floating
the
things?
blimp.
Yeah, they look like blimps, but they're not. You know what I'm talking
Yeah, I know
about?
what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
They're like war blimps, I'll call them. I don't know what the fuck they are, but
War
they look
blimps.
they look like blimps to me.
Also, I'm just gonna say that's a great name for a band. Someone should steal that immediately. War blimps.
Trademark. I'm trademarking war blimps.
I'm sure it exists somewhere in the world.
Yeah, probably.
Saving Private Ryan takes out Mission Impossible 6 Fallout 15-5. And let's go here. Oh wait, no, John Wick 2 is already out of the tournament. What am I talking about? So yeah, John Wick finally was killed in this episode. Our final matchup in the Sweet 16 here. It's because I'm editing all these episodes as I'm recording, so everything's just fresh in my head. Final matchup in the Sweet 16. Final spot of the Elite 8 on the line. We have Mad Max Fury Road, and it's specifically the sequence, and it cuts actually pretty well, of the tanker being dropped off to the biker clan when they blow the land bridge and they blow the road up, through when Rosie Huntington-Whiteley goes under the wheels. She's the pregnant bride of Immortan Joe. She goes under the wheels in that big crash, and that's where that scene pretty much ends. It's one of the few scenes in the tournament that is a 2-clip scene, and it's ironic because it's going up against one of the other fucking movies that's a 2-clip scene. Mad Max got here by beating out the train wreck from The Fugitive and the trench scene from Wonder Woman, which again is an underrated pair of really good scenes.
Yep, that's a good path.
Now it takes on the Ride of the Rohirrim from Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, which got here by beating out the splitting of the Titanic from Titanic and the Catacombs Escape shootout from John Wick 2, which I already said I think is the peak of the entire franchise of John Wick. How do you score Mad Max in Return of the King?
6-4, Lord of the Rings.
I surprise you. I went 6-4 Mad Max.
Oh, okay.
So, I've said this multiple times on multiple podcasts. Lord of the Rings, favorite story of all time. Most important single story ever to me. I'm far more emotional and attached to Return of the King.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not get goosebumps and I get tears in my eyes every time I hear that speech from Theoden. And I start chanting death in my living room every time I do it because I'm just like, yes. in watching it, I will say the peak of that scene is the speech. In my opinion, it's a lot of fun and it's still great to see. And again, Eowyn, the way we broke it down is it's the ride through the Oliphants come in, or the Mumakil, or the Mumakil if you want to say that. And it's essentially to when Eowyn takes out Gothmog, the really ugly looking fucking orc. That's the way that scene is cut in the two
Oh,
scenes I've provided.
oh, I watched definitely Eowyn defeating the Witch King.
I thought that was too much of an ad for the Witch King. Which if I've set you up for failure here,
Oh,
my
okay.
apologies.
I'm
Because
gonna
there's too
switch
much
mine.
that happens there.
I'm gonna switch mine to a 5-5 split then.
Okay, so we have a Mad
I
Max victory.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Because the other thing, when I was looking at it, is the action's great in Return of the King. I don't want to say anything negative
Oh,
about
it's
the Return of the
amazing.
King. I've said this before also. If you believe in the Oscars hype, it has an argument for being the best movie of all time. Straight up, it does if you believe in the Oscars as a merit system.
Yeah.
So there's just something where it gets that epic battle done properly in a way that is perfect. Every moment, every character gets a moment to shine. It's just the one thing I had to say was the action of Mad Max was so refined. And there's still so many great action moments and character moments to really get you to focus on Max and Furiosa that are impeccable to me, that I love.
Okay, so we can't take context into this, right?
Generally, well, I mean, because stakes, we've been talking about stakes, you need context for the stakes, right?
So what I was gonna say is for Lord of the Rings, the thing they do so well, which keeps that battle moving and it keeps it interesting the entire time, is they're really good at creating um peaks and then valleys.
Yes.
They're
It's
really
Peter
good at
Jackson's specialty.
they're really good at giving you really good heroic moments and then just giving you a real downer.
Mm-hmm.
And the right before the riders of Rohan come and they give that speech, Gandalf gets his staff broken.
Oh, yeah, I
So like
know.
it's a real downer. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
something
because you
that
believe the white light that has never been beaten gets
yeah,
beaten, you're like, we're fucked.
yeah, exactly. So like I would argue the stakes feel a lot higher in the Lord of the Rings than it does in Mad Max.
Yes.
It's a lot more clearly defined as well cuz I don't know what is Max's goal overall, Mad Max. Just a freedom, right? Kind of.
Just wants to be alone. Just wants
Yeah,
to drive.
Furiosa's a really the hero,
Oh,
really.
yeah, Max is the drifter. Max is the
Yeah,
drifter character. He's not the. It's just he's been the center of the first three, so it's a Mad Max
yeah,
movie. You're like, yeah, but it's about Furiosa, but it's Mad Max. Like,
yeah. Um, so that's another thing going for Lord of the Rings. That's why I say, like, if we're not going to include Eowyn and the Witch King, also Mary, gotta include him.
yep,
He helps. He helps.
he helps.
Um, if we're not going to include that, I'm fine with splitting it. So
So the reason I went with that again is if we include the Witch King, I just feel that's really two extra scenes that aren't the ride of the Rohirrim. It becomes the aftermath of what happens because of them, sort of. Because I know I first brought it up. I think I'm the one who fucked you up for it. Was because I was like, oh, it's not that long, and it's just like Duel of the Fates, and we did the whole Duel of the Fates. But then I was looking at it, I was just like, that's like 20 minutes of film
well, see,
interspliced together.
the way I thought of it is cutting once Aragorn shows up,
Yeah.
because that's really like the end of the Rohan part. You
Yes.
know,
The Rohirrim save everyone's ass, but it's not the reason they win.
Yeah.
It's the reason they're allowed to win later, but it's not the reason they're
But
allowed to
but
win.
you do have a good point. That is a large percentage of the
And
battle.
and
So
that's the thing is, I think Eowyn's scene by itself is so good and so far removed. Like, you got to get Theoden getting taken out by the Nazgul. It's so much. Where
yeah,
you have a cap here with Eowyn taking out Gothmog, you're like,
that's true.
it's
You could
it's
argue
my
that
shield
scene.
maiden. Fucking
You
love
could
that woman.
argue that. Yeah, you could argue that scene being on the tournament itself.
And that's why I just go,
I love that morning star that the Witch King has,
oh, it's rad.
where it digs into the ground. It's so awesome.
It's fucking radical. And again, Peter Jackson, more so than we said this in the past, rival or might even beat Spielberg in this specific category, making sure everybody gets a great moment to shine. Like, he rivals him in that aspect in terms of the Lord of the Rings, where it's like Eowyn
I think
gets such clear moments, Merry gets such clear moments, Eomer gets such clear moments.
I think it's because he knows Lord of the Rings so well. Because when you do it with something like The Hobbit, where he's creating a lot of the lore,
He has to
like
add to the battle, yes.
yeah, where he has to add to the source material, it doesn't come off as well.
Yeah, some of them work, some of them don't. Sure,
Yeah.
I understand that. But specifically in that trilogy, I don't know if it's ever
Yeah.
been done better.
Lord of the Rings, I completely agree. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, how do you not fall in love with Eowyn when she gets such a wonderful, caring moment to start, but then she gets great moments where she's riding under the Oliphant and she's really smart, pulling all these options out, and then you just see that no, she's a badass. This is who she is,
Yeah, she takes one of them down.
and she's the fucking shield maiden of Rohan. All love to you, my lady. It's great. And I will say the new Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim animated film. It's, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you can have some fun with it. I don't think it's spectacular. One of the best parts is the fact that Miranda Otto comes back to be the narrator, which is just like you have Lady Eowyn telling, the
Hey, you know
story of
what
the
else?
Rohirrim. You're like, nice.
You know what else she's in? Talk
Do
to Me.
Oh, she's in Talk to Me. Okay, which you fucking
Yeah.
love is the other movie that you won't shut the fuck up about until to the point. Great inside baseball note for all of our listeners. Dylan has now started harassing my wife to get me to watch that movie. Where he's now
Yeah.
started texting my wife, Ab, saying, "Yo, get Evan to watch this movie."
It's great.
You
It's a
love
great
it.
movie.
So we're gonna go Mad Max here again. I think the use of action, cinematography, and also the stunt work is second to none in Mad
Agree.
Max.
I
So
agree with that.
Mad Max will win 11-9, and it's going to take on Saving Private Ryan. And I think that's a true competition, mostly because I think there is two people with very different tastes in terms of these scenes. So it's going
Yeah.
to be fun. And that has been all of our matchups for this episode. A quick recap going into the Elite Eight on our next episode. We have the docking sequence of Interstellar taking on the T-Rex escape from Jurassic Park, coming out of the Yo bracket for the Final Four spot. In the cruise bracket, we have the Burj Khalifa climb from Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol taking on the Amun forest fight from Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. We then have, in the Weaver bracket, Raiders of the Lost Ark truck chase taking on the parkour chase from Casino Royale. And finally, we have the Omaha Beach sequence from Saving Private Ryan taking on the bike jump chase. So many words to describe Mad Max Fury Road scene. Some good matchups here. Number one seeds could fall next episode. That's all I'm saying. So we're going to have some fun here, and I hope you guys are going to join us for that. The Elite episode is going to be on the next episode of the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast. And we're going to continue towards the Final Four and everything else afterwards. always switching between the ONETA Show and the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast. But we're going to have some on, and we're glad you guys joined us. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. We'd love to see it. Thank you guys for supporting us and watching this and listening to this as often as you have. It's greatly appreciated. We love you for it. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Bye!